Hey everybody, so today's special is peaches, and I'm gonna walk you through a couple ways to do more than just eat these beautiful things out of your bowl on your counter. We're going to bake these peaches. We're gonna make a lazy peach sonker, which I'll explain a little bit more about in a bit, and then we're gonna make some honey glazed peaches. So let's get started. As you can see, I have a couple different sizes. And I just want to show you that for this recipe, anything goes, just as long as they're ripe. That's really all that matters. So these are actually from the farmer's market from down the street. And these I got from the grocery store, so they are a little bit bigger. And these come from down south in the Georgia area. So I'm going to peel these. And I am using a serrated peeler. I like to use a serrated peeler when peeling things like peaches because it just helps to kind of grip the peach a little bit better. But if you don't have a serrated peeler, use a regular peeler. It's a-okay. And if you have super juicy peaches, you might want to use like a dish towel or something just to kind of help secure the peach in your hands. I'm not bragging, but sort of a big deal. Oops, see? This I might chop off because it looks like it is going a little bit past its point. But I think that like with bruises, it all depends on if it's because the fruit or vegetable is rotting or if it really is because it just is a blemish. Some of these may have been a little underripe, maybe picked too soon. So if that happens, it's real life, just cut around the pit. You can use frozen peaches. Do not thaw them for this recipe, keep them frozen. All you have to make sure is that the slices aren't stuck together. You want them separate. And you can also make this with strawberries, and I believe you can also make it with blueberries, and I'm sure nectarines would work just fine too. And if you are from North Carolina or somewhere that people made this and you grew up eating these, I'd love to hear from you. Leave some stories or something in the comments, because there's nothing like a good old Southern recipe that you've been making all your life. All right, so now I'm gonna clean up my board, my sticky little board, and then I'm gonna add some sugar and some salt, mix it up really nicely, and then I'm also going to separately stir together some cornstarch and water, which will help to thicken this mixture. I'm gonna toss it all together, pop it in the oven. So this recipe uses an 8-inch square baking dish, but I know some people don't have the dishes, they have 8-inch square baking pans, and I think it's fine if you have that. Just keep an eye on the bubbling. It might, caramelize or cook a little quicker because of the metal conducting more heat, but I think it's fine. All right, so the cornstarch is going to help take this from soup land to stew land. And you can just pour it all over. And just get everything in there nice and evenly dispersed and coated. Halfway through baking, you're gonna go in there with your rubber spatula and you're gonna stir it ever so slightly, especially around the corners, because what can happen is as it bakes, the cornstarch can kind of settle down into those corners, and for the optimal texture of this awesome sonker, you wanna be sure that you go in there and stir it. And just to ensure cleanliness, do what I can. Not very good at it, but I put a parchment on a rim baking sheet just like this, because otherwise what could happen in theory is that it could bubble over. So this just cuts down on dish time. I preheated an oven. It's at 350 degrees, and I adjusted the oven rack to the middle position. I'm gonna bake this until it's bubbling around the edges, halfway through, going in there with a rubber spatula, getting in those corners. Now we're gonna make the pancake batter portion of this. So I'm gonna clean up, gather all my ingredients, and then we will make that together. I am going to mix my dry ingredients, my wet ingredients, and then we're gonna pour it on top of the sonker. So we have the 3/4 of a cup of sugar. All right, so I'm gonna whisk the dry ingredients together. And I always wonder in recipes if it's really necessary to whisk the dry ingredients before adding the wet ingredients, and it really is, because it ensures that you're not gonna get pockets of dry ingredients when you're taking a bite out of the sonker. I'm gonna melt 8 ounces of butter, and I'll be right back. All right, so I have my melted butter, and I'm gonna add my milk. Great, add this in. And then we're gonna need a little bit of vanilla and just mix until all the ingredients are nice and combined. Looks so good and smells just like cake batter. All right. Just remove any cornstarch that could have decided to find a little home in the corners there. All right, so it's time to top it. I mean, I'm not a camera person, but I feel like slow-mo would be pretty cool right about now. This is gonna go back in the oven until it's golden brown on the top, bubbling around the edges. It's gonna take about 35 to 40 minutes. Using a toothpick or a skewer, go on in, and when you come out, you want it to look just like that. You don't want to have any crumbs attached. Look at these little lazy bubbles. Okay, so we need to wait 15 minutes to go hang out. Grab your bowls, grab your people, and some spoons. You're hungry people, I hope. So this is a recipe called honey glazed peaches. It's pretty simple, so let's get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my broiler. As you can see, it's already 6 inches from that heating element there. That's really the best way to understand your broilers, to be able to kind of control where you're putting things underneath that. Otherwise, it's so easy to have a situation. You know what I'm talking about. This is a little bit different, the size of the peach I was using last for the sonker. So this is bigger. You want to make sure that when you have them, it's going to fit evenly in the skillet, and then that they're ripe. So I'm going to run my knife just around the perimeter. And if it's ripe, this should come out pretty easily. So I actually already did a few of these ahead of time. Just to make my life a little easier. And if you do yours ahead of time too, you can just put a little bit of lemon juice just to make sure that they don't oxidize. All right, so we're gonna add some granulated sugar, some salt. And the salt is just to kind of help bring out the peach flavor. You're not really gonna even notice the salt. And here we go. Get in there and kind of make sure, you know what, I'm just gonna use my handy dandy hands. Now I'm gonna use my spatula. So you just wanna get them nice and evenly coated. Let's transfer these over here. And you'll see that the reason I'm using a skillet as opposed to like a baking dish is because we're gonna use the skillet later just to reduce the juices, and that's only going to take just a few minutes. All right, so if you have any accumulated juice, go around and pour it in the cavity there. And this water is just going to help kind of prevent the sugars that get released from the peaches, just to help them from burning, because it'll kind of create like a little bit of a steam effect. I'm gonna brush about half of this mixture onto the top of the peaches. And I think you probably could use, like, if you wanted to put a little lemon juice in this, you could. I don't know, maybe if you had maple syrup, you could give that a try. But this is just such an easy but delicious recipe. A little ice cream on there. All right, so I'm gonna hold on to the rest of that. Don't throw it away. And then I'm gonna pop these back under the broiler for about 5 to 7 minutes-ish. You just wanna make sure that the glaze and the peaches are starting to get spotty brown. All right, so now transfer the peaches to your serving platter. And because of the water that we added earlier, it's not a scary mess in the skillet. Now take the rest of the honey butter mixture, add it to the skillet. All right, you're gonna cook this for about 1 minute until it gets really nice and syrupy. All right, so in the meantime, I'm gonna grab some hazelnuts because that's what's also gonna go on top of our peaches. Usually when you buy hazelnuts, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't have the skin on them. And the best way to get the skin off is after you toast them, put them in between a dish towel and run your hands over it for, you know, a couple minutes or so. And what happens is the skin kind of like pops right off and flecks right off. So luckily these have been already skinned because I bought them that way. But then I just toasted them in a skillet. But it's pretty easy to toast nuts. All you have to do is put them in a skillet, a dry skillet, or you can put them in the oven. Just keep your eye on them. And the best way to chop nuts like this is, yes, you could throw them in a food processor if you wanted to. But with an amount like this, I'm just gonna run my knife through them, put these aside. So you'll notice that it's not burning or scorching the pan right now, and that's because of that water that we added in there earlier. It's just, you know, cooking off, and the sugars from the honey are starting to caramelize. And it is time to glaze our peaches. Oh yeah. And now, hazelnuts. This is why you don't have to have them look too perfect, because as I said, when they look less perfect, you know, when they're more rustic, I think they look better. All right, there you have it. Go out there, find some ripe peaches, and get some vanilla ice cream and make this recipe. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it and don't forget to subscribe.